All right, this is my first voiceover video, so hopefully this goes well. It was about 1 a.m. and I wanted to make a card. So I did, but I had to be very quiet. My husband was still sleeping, and I'm not wearing my rings because I have to take them off at night because my fingers are fat. I used the Spring Fling Lawn Fawn 6x6 paper pack. I just picked that up. It is so cute, and I love it. So I have a card base, and then I was cutting down the first background with like blue, pink, and green and yellow from that pack. I was cutting it down to, or I had already cut it down to size, I think, for the size of the card base. And now I'm just running it through that largest die from my Lil Inker Designs rectangle, stitched rectangle set. The largest one just cuts the stitches into it. It doesn't cut a frame out. The rest of them do, but the biggest one just cuts the stitches into whatever paper you're putting through. So I'll pull this out and I will probably show you what that looks like. I have brand new cutting plates and they are very hard to get stuff off of. So the stitches are now in the piece that is the size of the card. So that's going to go straight onto the card base. And I actually didn't even have to cut a card base. Like, past me had like 4 card bases stashed in this drawer next to me. And so I had one ready, which was awesome. And now I think I'm cutting out a frame. Yeah, so I have green cardstock and I have the Lawn Fawn. I don't have this one labeled, but I think they're called stitched scallop rectangle frames. And I am cutting out the second largest. And I wanted, you'll see what I do with it. I needed kind of, not a frame, but I needed a solid one. But this ended up working out because I just needed some scallopy edges to peek out from, oh, hello, sorry, something fell. I needed the scallopy edges to peek out. I'm having trouble getting it out of the die. I think my new cutting plates push the paper and they're really good. So that's what you're not seeing. I think I'm trying to find my tweezers because for some reason I don't just leave them on my desk. I insist on dropping them into the depths of hell so I can't find them later. And this is also my morning voice. It's a little rough. I'm sorry. So there's a little part where I probably poked it a little too hard as well. I'm looking at the card right now, but once I get it out, I will show you what I made. So I wanted like a solid piece that's scalloped. I don't have dies like that, but this is fine. So I have a frame, and then I'm going to cut another stitched rectangle from my Lil Inker Designs set out of white. That piece of paper was in the card I did yesterday. And so I'm going to cut this one out, and it actually just, I set it on top of the green, so it looks like the green is solid, but it's not. It's kind of like the technique people use. If you don't know about it, it's very handy. Let's say that green paper was very special paper or very pretty pattern paper and I wanted to keep it. Some people, even if they had a solid background, they would die cut. Ooh, you can see my face in my new plates. That's how new they are. Look at that. That's funny. Okay. If they had a solid green, or a solid die that would cut that green, they would actually cut that rectangle out of it to save some of the paper for later, because all they need is the border edge. So in this case, that isn't the case because that's the die that I had, but that's how people, if you're going to cover it up anyway, that's how people save paper that they like. They will cut out a square or a rectangle from the middle that nobody's going to see anyway, so that they can have more of that paper for later. So that is a tip if you did not know that. I use a lot of adhesive. I just like stuff to stick down, and I've been to card classes and things where they're stingy with their adhesive. Like if I don't bring my own, and so I always bring my own. But I've taught card classes too, and I'm like, just use everything. I don't care. Use all the glue, all the tape runner. I will buy refills. It's fine. I don't ever want you to feel like you can't use as much adhesive as you want on your project. I don't want it peeling up in the future. If you're going to give somebody a card, you want them to display it every year. Every time that holiday comes around, that card better be on your mantle. Or you can throw it away. I don't care. So this set is Lawn Fawn Celebration Scripty Sentiments. And I'm using Happy Mother's Day. I'm just going to stamp it with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Quick topic while I'm stamping that. We can go into more detail. I don't really necessarily have talkie videos about other things other than what I'm making, but let me know if you would like to hear stuff. I, not just with card making, but I have just taught myself as a human. I will just relate this to cards that I give people, but it also goes along with gifts or favors that you do for people. If you give a card, you have to expect that card to be thrown away. You just do. If you find a person that is regularly throwing them away, then stop giving them that card. If it makes you feel bad, then don't do it. Here I'm just putting, I don't know why I'm putting so much adhesive in the hole in the middle. I didn't need to do that, which it sticks to my table after this, but basically I'm just covering it up so it looks like I have that scallop edge, which is what I was going for. But basically, just, I've taught myself that people are going to throw away your cards, or they're afraid to, which is also unhealthy. If you give a card, you know, and they want to enjoy it for a little bit and they don't want to keep it, my feelings aren't hurt. But if you find that you only want to give cards to people who keep them, then do that. But the same if you give stuff to people that aren't thankful, or grateful at all. It's just people, you give to give. You don't give to get a thank you, I guess. So it's all part of the same thing. So you can't be hurt about it. If you want to just make cards for you, then keep all your cards and don't give them to anybody. I just recently got this new wider foam tape. I kind of like it because it's a lot faster. For some reason, the same length of foam tape, the roll on Amazon that I buy, I think it's the same length, but it was wider, so technically more, was less. It cost less money than the thinner one I had been buying, so I just bought the wide one. I will always just buy the cheaper one. There are many things on Amazon that some crafters are probably paying a lot of money for, like purple tape. Sorry, purple tape, but you're not the first purple tape. There's an off-brand of, it's basically painting tape, and it's on Amazon and it's very cheap. So I raised up that part on foam, and then I'm going to be stamping the flower row from Simply Celebrate by Lawn Fawn. I do not have the dies for this set because I picked it up at a local store that does not carry dies for some reason. They buy the Lawn Fawn stamps, but they rarely have the dies, the matching dies. If they do have dies, it's the standalone function dies. So they would have maybe the Magic Slider card dies, or just standalone dies that don't match stamp sets. I don't know why. I think they're very expensive, and this store already marks up, this stamp set at Lawn Fawn would be $15 as always, and this store marks it up to $19. So every now and then, if I really want something and I just want it now, which is awful, I will go there and support them. But at some point, they're trying to stay open, I think, at this point, because they charge so much. There's another store by the same name, a few cities away. It's a 20-minute drive, and they don't charge as much, and they have more Lawn Fawn, so I might go there soon, actually. Even though the stores have the same name, they're owned by different people. So there's that. So I stamped this. I kind of held it down a little bit to make sure I didn't have to double stamp because I didn't want to get out my platform. I was trying to be very, very quiet. And I think I pulled out my markers beforehand, before I filmed the video because I wanted to be very quiet. And now they're in like a plastic container that makes a bunch of noise in front of me. So I'm showing you the colors and I'm doing the greens. I end up grabbing a third green. So there are 3 when I'm coloring this. And then what I'm trying to do with these colors is match the background paper. So the background paper has green, blue, pink, and yellow. The blue is kind of a teal version of blue. So I try to work that in. And a light and a darker pink. There is no purple, but I do these tulips purple, if that's what those are. I do not know anything about flowers. I'm pretty sure the biggest ones are sunflowers, but I don't color them like that. So I remember going over this green with what I thought was the lighter one. Sometimes my chart lies to me. I don't know. I think I need to recolor it. I need to print it on heavier paper, but I can't. So I grabbed my G28, which is very dark green, and just kind of put that at the base so that when my lighter blended out, it didn't completely disappear the darker color like it did with the other green. This is some very quick coloring. Again, it was like 1 in the morning. So then I used my YG25, which is a green I love. I love YG25 and YG05. YG05 mostly because it's called salad. But I just like those bright greens. I had mentioned once when I was buying some Copics that I probably ended up with YG05 salad and E34 toast because I might have been hungry while I was shopping for Copics, which is a bad idea. You should tell me down below what your favorite Copic markers are, and if any others have food names, because then I should probably buy them. And then I'll do a coloring video where I challenge myself to only use the ones that have food names. I'm just kidding. Ooh, sugared almond pink also has food names. Let's see what's in front of me. Does Tuscan orange count as food? Hazelnut, that's a food. There are pale cherry pink. That's kind of a food technically. I mean, it is, but cotton candy. Ooh, I love that pink. Okay. So again, we're back with my favorite pink combo. I do need to branch out, but I just love this one so much. And I just refilled them, so they're very wet and juicy. I think when I bought my refills, I only bought like 8 refills and 2 of them were this pink combo. So maybe that's why I keep going to them. But I have a lot of pinks and I need to use more of them. But I have RV14 and RV13 for these little flowers. And then I end up doing the middles with yellow. The same yellow, I just used one yellow. I wasn't going to blend out the middle. And I'm just trying to blend out more because it's such a tiny area. It's hard to get any real blending detail, but I wanted the darkest in the center, so it kind of worked out. And then Y08, very bright yellow for my middles. I think that's my favorite bright yellow. I'm pretty sure Y06 or Y08 is pretty good. This one's a darker one. And then my teal combo for these flowers. On my chart, BG45 looks, I guess maybe not darker. They don't really go, but once you blend them together, this is BG45, and then I use BG23. And there you go. And they blend out nicely, but when I think you'll see me pause here because I was looking up at my chart and I'm like, why does this look darker? They didn't really work, but then as I was blending it, it worked out fine. I think I pause here and I'm looking at my chart. Oh, I was looking at the marker to make sure I used the right one. But that's fine. If I wanted to go darker, I could have used, gosh, BG49, but that's a little too dark for these bright flowers. So this worked out just fine. And then I'm going to cut this out. So this probably isn't a tip at this point, but you'll watch me cut, and I think I just go to town and cut out the chunk because it's easier for me to cut out a smaller piece of paper without all the other paper weighing me down. So I try and cut this out like I thought the die cut would have cut it out. I think I was thinking to myself I should have looked up what the die cut does, but then I was like, it's fine. I'll just make my own pattern, and it turned out okay. But this cutting technique of like turning the paper as you're cutting is, I think, one of the first things you learn when you're crafting the type of crafting that we do, either in some card class or just in learning it yourself. And I always cut off any paper that's holding me back from turning the paper. So I'll cut off chunks of it. I'm not quite sure where the die cut would have cut in, but the card that I used, I think, I feel bad. I think it was, I don't actually know. I meant to check. I'm so sorry. The card inspiration I found was on Pinterest. I meant to remember who it was. I'm so sorry. Maybe they'll yell at me and I can apologize to them. She actually used the butterfly, the row of butterflies. I don't have that stamp set, but this one worked out because it's very flowery and for Mother's Day. And I have about 5 Mother's Day cards, 6 to give this year. So yeah, I need to make some more. So then I had an extra piece of foam tape that I had set aside to lift this up, and then I just add a little bit more, and then this goes above the sentiment on the card. And then once I peel these off, I thought about speeding this video up and then doing a voiceover. I don't know. That probably wasn't going to work out because I've never done a voiceover before, in case you can't tell. And so at least this one isn't 30 minutes long. This is only almost 18. So then I was centering it as good as I could for 1 in the morning. And then I cleaned up and I went back to bed and somehow fell asleep. But anyway, that is it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.